My name is Paige from Soulfully Paige, and welcome to Women in Horror with horror miser Monty G.
Y'all ready for this? Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the horror miser Monty G. Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the horror miser Monty G. Welcome once again to my awesome series, Women in Horror, where we celebrate women's contribution into the genre of horror. And I have a very good friend of mine on here. I met her on the great, wonderful Mercy's show. Her name is Paige, and she has a wonderful website. She also has a wonderful YouTube channel known as Soulfully Paige. So, Paige, say hi to all my subscribers.
Hi everyone, how is everyone doing today?
Uh, Since this is the first time on my channel, just give a brief description about yourself, your YouTube channel, and your designs that you make.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Paige, also known as Soulfully Paige, and then my photography business that I run is Soulful Creations by Paige. Everything is started off just by, wanting to preserve moments and, having some thing to hold for that. So once I started with my photography business, I wanted to get behind the scenes because I am very creative. I have helped with a lot of things. I've helped with a lot of music industry stuff as well in my past. So I'm kind of just bringing that all back and kind of putting it all together.
Yes, there will be links to her YouTube channel and her website in the description box below. But obviously, let's get this started. Now, obviously, when it comes to horror, a lot of people do not think that women, especially little girls, should not be watching horror because, girls and women, they're sugar and spice and everything nice. So, what in the world got you into the horror genres? Like, what was the movie or what let you get into something of a genre like horror?
Yeah, so I always kind of attracted to more of the spicier side. So what we mean by that is like Tim Burton, for example. That was probably like my earliest way of introduction to anything horror. Is through the kid movies. So watching James and the Giant Peach, and then moving on to Nightmare Before Christmas. They are kind of the odd style from obviously being more into the darker side of things. You start getting into the occultic classics like Edward Scissorhands, and then you start going into like The Grudge, especially during my time growing up. The Grudge just came out, and I think it was like what 2005.
Yeah, 2005, yes.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah,
Mm.
it was just kind of a start of a whole another phenomenon because at that time, we really had was like rom coms, and what we love to know is like those stoner films. Those are great and all, but I really attracted more towards the darker side of things, whether it was psychological thrillers or darker tales that didn't have such a happy ending, or if they just made you think.
Yeah, I think one of the aspects when it comes to horror, even such films like the psychological horror films, yeah, when you don't have the happy ending, I think when it comes to mind with Seven, I think that has one of very not a happy ending, and how Kevin Spacey's character was the killer, and the fact that obviously he was envious of Brad Pitt's character. Even though we know that what's in the box, it makes a lot of jokes about it, but the fact that he was envious of his life, and he felt as though that's why he killed Brad Pitt's character's wife, Gwyneth Paltrow's wife. Her head is we don't see it, but the head is in the box. Morgan Freeman's character, he knows it's in it, and it was a very, very dreadful ending. But sometimes you need those type of endings, and not everything can be roses and sunshine, because unfortunately
Exactly.
that's not what life is like, and sometimes you need those ambiguous endings. It's like when we see. You ever saw The Mist?
Yes, The Mist I've seen. Yes, that
Yeah, yeah.
that when I
That.
first saw that when I was younger, that absolutely messed me up.
Mhm. When you have an ending like that, and how that film ends, and how close they were for being saved. but they didn't know that until after the events that happened. It's just like, wow, that's such a powerful and very terrible ending. It's just terrible. And I kind of felt, I felt sorry for Thomas Jane's character because the one, he had to do the deed he had to do. But sometimes you do need movies like that have the ambiguous ending, not the happy ending that we see all the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes it relatable to life, right? Because
Mm,
everyone goes through stuff, and not always is it a happy ending, though it shapes and molds us or tells a story. Whether it be, I'm really into documentaries a lot. Obviously, true crime documentaries is what is it? One of every woman's favorite thing to do. Curl up with
mm,
their Netflix crime documentaries and fall asleep.
mm. It amazes me how popular and widespread true crime has become. I think mainly because of, I guess maybe CSI started it all off, and then all of a sudden you have forensic files, and next thing you know, true crime just spread throughout the country. It just got so popular now. Even now the people, like whether you're watching Deadly Women,
Oh yes, yep.
Deadly Women on ID, and you got Snapped on Oxygen. The people on those shows have become popular. They even now have conventions now.
Oh wow, that must be pretty interesting convention. I don't know if I should go or if I should stay away. Um,
Yeah, yeah, no, that's way because all the stars, even with Kelly, the former prosecutor that does the cold case. No, I forgot the name of the show that is on Oxygen now. She's become very popular now ever since she does these shows, and now all of a sudden they go have these conventions, and she's there. The old FBI people there. The guy from Homicide guy from ID, he go on these conventions. So it's like all of a sudden they becoming popular because that's how popular true crime has become.
Absolutely. And, circling back to the whole idea that a lot of horror comes from true life and what is
Mm,
true life, sometimes we have to deal with the fact that it's not just the boogeyman, that sometimes people are able and capable to do these said things too. And that's what makes it scary.
I know. I mean, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 1974 by Tobe Hooper, that was based on the crimes of Ed Gein.
Exactly.
Mm,
Exactly. I mean, I grew up watching, like I said, documentaries. My parents were very much history buffs. It didn't matter what it was. There was
mm.
documentaries on. I remember on Ted Bundy and then Jeffrey Dahmer. So funny enough that me and my dad ended up getting a dash hound dog named Jeffrey. Um, so it's an ongoing joke that we named him after Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the organization called Women in Horror?
No, I have not, but I've heard a little bit from Mercy. Mercy told me a little bit about it just
Mm,
recently when she was introducing me to you.
yeah, it started off as a grassroots organization because obviously they felt as though the people who created it felt as though that women were not getting their fair share into the contributions they have done in horror. So it started off as a grassroots organization. Now they started just celebrating once a month in the month of February. But at the time when that started, they did not want to compete with Black History Month, so they moved it from February to March, and the organization kicked off so well and got so popular that they now just have a year-long celebration of women in horror.
Oh
Not just
wow.
center it just for 1 month because that's what they used to be in February, and was then was March, and then you see, you know what? It's so popular. We're just not going to just have it centered just on 1 month. It's just going to be a year-long celebration. So the people behind it, they just do a celebration all year long. So that's what got me fascinated when I found out about the organization. So that's when I just started last year. Instead of just doing every March, I think I'm just going to have a year-long celebration of celebrating the contributions what women have done in the genre of horror, whether it's in front of the camera, behind the camera, behind, directing, writing, whether you have a YouTube channels, where you have a podcast, where you're a author of horror books, if you have your collector of horror things, you cosplay in horror or some of the stuff, even the stuff that you do, you
Yeah,
know.
I did. I used to do special effects makeup, and every once in a while, I'll still go to cons.
Hmm.
I a constant hobby collector. Let's just put it that way. So
Hmm.
I used to do some special effects, and it was all at home stuff. I was sending things around. This was back in 2014. I was just sending my stuff around to, different special effects shops and all that just to get pointers. And I actually got asked by Tom Salvini's people to jump
Ooh.
on a Zoom call to talk about his university class that he has and such. I
Mm-hmm.
got offered to go, but unfortunately I was unable to go.
Oh
Um,
man.
yeah, he's
that
he's
that that
absolutely the
would have been
man.
something if you got an opportunity to go.
Absolutely. It's NPA, so it's not too far. Not too
Hmm.
far from me, but I just couldn't swing it at the time. And, hey, I've moved on a little bit, but I still love giving it a swing every once in a while.
Yes, yes. We'll talk about that later. What are your thoughts regarding how women have been treated in horror films? All the way back from the damsel and distress to the intelligent roles women now have in horror films.
I definitely love to see the progression. I absolutely love, the certain films where the women are the ones creating the horror as being the perpetrator or the one doing said things. Because usually, even in the real world, women are usually the damsel in distress, no matter what. We have a
Mm,
disadvantage oftentimes. So it's really kick ass to see on the other flip side when we do have films that do have a female lead role. And she's not necessarily the first one getting killed, and she's not the one being stalked.
mm. Yeah, I find it fascinating when we look at how women began in horror films, typically just the damsel and the stress, as opposed to what they are right now. One of the great examples I give when you take a look at Fay Ray from the original 1939 King Kong to Peter Jackson's version of King Kong with Naomi Watts as
Yeah,
Anne Downing. And their
huge difference.
roles is so totally different because Fay Ray, she screams, she yells, she always has to be saved by Kong. But and Naomi Watts' character, Anne Downing, yeah, Kong saves her, but she stands up to Kong. She pisses Kong off. She tells him to go away, even though Kong could probably do anything with her. But he likes her so much, and even though he gets pissed off,
Pardon me. Whew.
that's okay. She gets pissed off, but she stands up for herself, and that's the big draft bad differences between it, even though and they also occur at the same time, both in that time period in the late 30s, early 40s. But the characters, so even though it's the same character, their roles are so different,
Well, it's
and
almost
that's
like they took the character and made her, all right, what
mm,
would a woman back at that time, a sassy, feisty woman, would be
mm,
like? Because we still had women in every day that were, a little bit against the grain even back
mm,
then.
mm. Yeah, and I like what Naomi Watts did with Van Dowling. She wasn't the typical But when you take a look at even the roles, like even you take a movie like Rosemary's Baby and Mia Farrow's character and how she was, and I thought she did a good job. Well, yeah, she's trying to be the nice wife, but she feels as though something's not right. Something's not right with this what's going on in this hotel, what's going on with her husband, and of course we find out later that she was right all along.
Women's intuition, man, that's another good thing.
Yeah, so it's very fascinating because even as we get into the 70s, when you take a look at the original Black Christmas film, Elizabeth Husby, and when you take a look at her character and the fact that even though she wants to finish school, even though she's pregnant, she says, "No, I don't want to have your kid. I want to finish school. I'm not going to marry you." Totally, totally different as opposed to what normally would see that back in the day. And
Right.
it's obviously reflecting the times because that's when the feminism started to grow up in the 70s. So, but I
Absolutely.
like that, and of course, Margot Kidder's character, she was, she didn't hold back anything at all.
And that's what I love. I really love a lot of storylines that allow the flexibility of these characters
Mm,
and still being able to be delicate but still stand firm.
mm.
Masterpiece, especially a good reflection on, I think, people in today's society. It's able to keep those old stories alive and adapt to what feels more current.
How do you feel about the evolution of the final girl trope in horror films? Because that's changed.
I am not familiar with that, to be honest with you. I'm
Hmm.
in my box. I told you, I'm in my little box over here.
See, here's when it comes to the final girl for me. Obviously, you take a look at Laurie Strode. Most big people consider her somewhat the first final girl, even though most say obviously Liz Husby's character. She could have been the first final girl, but the trope really didn't come into play, I think, until after the original Friday the 13th character. But most final girls, they kind of accidentally fall into the trap. When you take a look at the original Friday the 13th and Adrian King's character with obviously with Betsy Palmer's character, they fight. She accidentally winds up winning the battle. But it's very different as opposed to what we see final girls now. Final girls are really intelligent. First of all, they're not virgins. Most final girls back then is supposed to be the nice girl. They're virgins, they're pure and spice and everything nice. But now final girls are no longer the virgins. They're no longer the nice girl. They have flaws. They're not the perfect girl, but they're very intelligent. They're very smart. They're no longer just accidentally winning the battles. When you take a look at horror films back in the early 80s and to now, when we have some of the more intelligent final girls, they're smart, they're intelligent, they're not the nice girl anymore. So that's what I mean when you see the evolution of the final girls, how they changed throughout time.
I'll have to actually give that a check out then.
Hmm. Do you think we will ever see a female villain in a I mean a horror I'll say it this way. You think we'll ever see a female horror icon in the same vein as Freddy, Jason, and Michael?
I would hope so. I hope
Hmm.
so. We need at least one because all we got really right now is Chucky's Bride. Jennifer Tilly is great. I love her too. I love
Hmm.
her down. I love her down so much. I love the Chucky series, truly do. But I want more. I want to see more of a female group to kind of accompany what we have with Freddie, Michael, Jason. And not
Hmm.
just saying the female adaptations. I want new, but, complementary, so to speak.
Yeah, because we have obviously what you call from Misery, but we really don't actually have female horror icons on the villain side in the same vein as Freddy, Jason, and Michael. We have a lot of one-offs, but not where we actually have a female that always comes back and all of a sudden she's become just as popular as her male counterparts. I think that's what we have not seen yet. I would like to see that happen where we actually have a almost not just one but a trio of female villains that are just as horror icons that we have with Freddy, Jason, and Michael. You
I
know,
agree. I would love
yeah,
to see
but
that happen. And I hope,
mm,
I hope with this generation now, mind you, we are seeing a peak of change now
mm,
happening yet again with media, writing, and all of that. And I hope that we're all kind of just sick of the same stories being spun out. And I'm hoping that
mm,
this is when we'll see that. I'm not a good writer, but I can come up with a thing or two.
yeah, they're trying to do something different when it comes to horror films. Um, I like Primate. That was something, even though it's like almost similar to Cujo, but I actually like what Primate does. There are some horror films that I really did enjoy that came out last year. It was kind of different, obviously with Weapons. That was pretty good. You had Aunt Gladys, Amy Magdalene was very great in that particular role. So they might actually do a prequel where they focus on that particular character. That'd be something interesting. A lot of people say maybe Aunt Gladys might become the female horror icon that we're looking for.
Well,
So
I hope so. I sure hope so. We need someone,
Mhm.
anyone at this point.
Now, how do you feel? Because during the '80s, when the slasher craze was really kind. For some reason, we could not go a horror movie without a woman exposing her breasts, her butt side, or even full frontal nudity. So, how do you feel, or did you feel that women were disrespected or objectified during the early slasher films during the 80s with all that gratuitous nudity that they were having?
Absolutely. I mean, there's one way to stay true to what's actually happening without showing it all, exposing it all. There's
Mm,
camera angles and effects that could have taken place, whether it's camera tricks, lighting effects, any type of angle. I understand that that was for a certain audience, but then there's also, now that we're aware, there's women who love these movies, love the idea of horror, but sometimes get uncomfortable. Like for me, I can't handle any over sexualization or over nudity
mm,
in any type of show. I'm like, all right, I need to turn it off at this point. I don't, I feel like I need to put in my ID.
mm.
So I just hope that things start changing a little bit, where we get to play with those camera angles like we have in like these action films. They would be perfect to use in the same way and adapt
Mm.
them into what we would use in horror films, like the angles.
Yeah, yeah. I think they've gotten a lot better over the years.
Mhm.
We don't have all that gratuitous nudity that we have for some reason or another. We couldn't. It really had nothing to do with the story at all, or nothing with the plot. We just had to see a half naked woman, or sometimes a half naked man. You know,
Hey, we got to
for
keep
some.
it equal, right?
Yeah,
If
yeah. To keep it equal, yeah. We had to
he's
see a half
gonna see some butts, she's gonna see some butts too.
naked. Yeah, for some reason, it really had nothing to do with the plot. And then now I think they've gotten much better. We don't see all that gratuitous nudity unless it's part of the story. There's a reason why we have to see, we see that. So I thought they really changed, but that would seem to be the only problem that they had. Because when you take a look at Jennifer's body, and you know, when obviously the producers or the filmmakers or I say the movie studios. I'll say the movie studios. For some reason, they thought that the only way they can make some money was just to have Megan Fox dress up in a cheerleader short skirt cheerleader outfit, and then we see that 10-minute makeup scene that her and Amanda Seyfried had, and they figured, so oh, we're going to get a lot of adolescent boys coming to the film, even though it really had nothing to do with the film itself.
No, but it was a good marketing tactic. I remember
uh,
being of pubescent age when that came out, and
mm,
let me tell you how many times I heard in that time that frame that movie came out.
mm,
All of my guy friends were like, I didn't even get to see anything. It was the funniest reaction because it took me a while to watch it, because I'm one of those people. I stick in my box. If it's
mm.
super popular, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm gonna wait. I'm
Mm.
gonna wait till the bandwagon already has taken off, and now
Uh,
I'm gonna see for myself, because I don't want anyone influencing my actual opinion. You know. So when I went to go and watch it, I was like, yeah, I could see why they left, probably walking a certain way.
yeah, and the movie was not about two hot girls making out. It was about the friendship between Jennifer and Needy, and the fact that they were totally opposite. And they really didn't know each other at all. So that was the whole purpose of the film, not about two hot girls making out.
No, if anything, it's kind of like a warning. It's a story of girlhood and like a warning to
Mm,
girls that, like, hey, you can still be friends with people that aren't in your same clique, and you could be completely polar opposite, but at the same time, it also comes with a whole box of worms.
what are your thoughts on the unfortunately rape and revenge films? Do you think a male writer director can faithfully make them, or do you think that a writer director can make them better?
I will like to go out on a whim and say women, because a lot of the times when I watch these films and I find out they're directed by a male,
Mm,
um, the scenes seem to be a little dragged on a little bit. Like
mm,
we don't need much to understand what's going on,
mhm,
to get the context clues of what's going on. And a lot of the times I personally get uncomfortable when they drag out for more than 45 seconds, 55 seconds. If I'm sitting there
mhm,
for a whole minute and I'm as uncomfortable, and I understand sometimes they use that to get the emotion to go on
Mm,
to the next scene. I completely understand that, but I personally think that it's done in a much more mindful manner a lot of the times because of the statistics of more every woman that you have met has been, you know,
mm,
essayed at some point in her life
mm.
on any degree. So I feel like we're able to get the message, but not feel the message fully.
Uh,
And it works
yeah,
in some cases, but not in all.
yeah, because when I take a look at the movie Revenge by the French director Caroline, where the one who did the Substance, in the essay scene, that wasn't as graphic as like say the original I Spit in Your Grave or the remake I Spit in Your Grave or even the film called Irreversible. Um, that scene was, but the implication is there just by her reactions, the shock, the fear, uh, the nervousness, and the fact that she can't believe that this has happened to her, and that unfortunately her boyfriend, if you want to call him that, let it happen. You know,
Hmm.
let it happen. But she does get her revenge, though.
Hey, that's the point, right?
Yeah, he does get a revenge. Yeah, so yeah, it amazes me, because for me, it's like when I see one thing I didn't like in the original "I Spit in Your Grave." When the woman gets her revenge, there's a scene in there that kind of doesn't make sense to me, knowing that the fact that a woman who gets SA'd, there's no way in the world she would do the type of stuff and not be affected by it. It doesn't make any sense to me. That scene didn't make any sense for how she lures the man into the room and then almost allows him to do the same thing that happened to her. That I don't think a woman would ever want to do that.
I can't speak for all women. I know for
Mm,
me, absolutely not.
mm-hmm,
Some, it could be in the sense of, hey, I'm going to retake this moment back with some power.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Everyone's brain works a little bit differently, and that's once again
mm-hmm,
why these stories are so compelling because sometimes
mm-hmm.
they're the shock factor of, I wouldn't do that. Susie Q next door wouldn't do that, and my cousin Jessica wouldn't do that. So it's one of those shock factor moments, I guess, and
Yeah.
reminder that everyone's different and everyone's affected by
Mm-hmm.
these things differently.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think during the '70s, when you had films like "I Spit in Your Grave," "The Last House on Your Left," "The Texas Chainsaw Massacre," and Hills Have Eyes," which I call them not horror films but ultra violent films, I
Hmm.
think each of the directors were trying to outshock the other, with ultra violence, not just plain horror, but just ultra violence. Some of the stuff they were doing in those films. So it's like this. Okay, well, we had The Last House on Left, so I'm going to do something even more shocking with "I Spin in Your Grave." All right, we see that. I'm going to do something more shocking than The Hills Have Eyes. Okay, well, I'm going to do something this. I'm going to come up with the Texas
Texas
Chainsaw
Chainsaw Massacre.
Massacre.
That took me so long to get over and watch it again from the first time I was forced to watch it. I was like 7 years old, and my best friend who lived like around the corner from me, she
Hmm.
forced me to watch it because she thought it was hilarious. She was also a few years older, so she's
Hmm.
also the same woman who chied me up to watch Chucky, and then I ended up loving Chucky after the fact.
Oh man, yeah, not good for a 7-year-old seeing a guy with a chainsaw killing people.
It's fine. It made more sense when I went on the little hay ride and I had the guy who looked like Chainsaw Massacre coming at me. The fear of terror and horror.
Ah, I see. I
The
see.
joys of
All right.
childhood, man. I would never get that scared now.
Yeah. Do you think women directors of horror films are finally getting the respect that they deserve?
Absolutely. I absolutely love that now I'm seeing more behind the scenes and I'm seeing women working on anything from being directors, writers to especially makeup artists and special effects and prop making.
Hmm.
I am so blown away just by the simple things that can be done and made. And when I see that these women are making these huge structure scenes, I'm just like,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
get up on that forklift. You do it, girl.
Hmm. Yeah, because I would assume that obviously makeup special effect was mostly a male dominated profession. and I'm pretty sure that that has changed now, as opposed to like seeing more females are getting into some of the practical effects makeups as opposed to like it was back then.
Absolutely. I actually started doing special effects makeup with a group of high school friends, and one of them actually went on, and she has a her whole Instagram, and that's what she does on her free time. It blows me away consistently. She's
Mm,
absolutely amazing. But we used to just make, whether it was little photo shoots together or home movies of, molding, a wolf biting into our arm or something, and we're getting infected
mm.
by a disease. And there, I wish I could find those old films that we made, just having fun being kids and being unsupervised for the weekend.
Oh, well, I had to talk. I have a question about that later. Okay, so what led you to create this Soulful Designs and your YouTube channel? What led you to go on ahead and create your design that you make?
Well, I miss a lot of behind the scenes. I remember, back when we had, VHS tapes, or more
Mm,
so the DVDs where you had, the special features. I
yeah.
was one of those kids where I had no friends really growing up. I wasn't allowed outside the house until like
Mm,
middle school. So those times growing up, all I had was media, movies, music videos, and DVDs, whatever my parents could grab me. And a lot of the times I would watch, the behind the scenes and all of that more than even watching the movies. I was
mm,
excited to see what went on behind, what, the directors were saying, whether it was seeing, the bloopers. I would laugh. I love a good laugh. And you tend to have a lot of fun when you're creating. And that's just kind of what we're missing. We see, the
mm,
perfect, polished final edits, and that's great. And I want to see behind that, though. And that's kind of what the push behind all of this is to see how many artists, whether they are movie artists, makeup artists, music, I want to get behind the scenes of that and kind of have a capsule of what that time is for them. So they can go
yeah.
back in 10 years and pull this up and be like, look at this. And who knows,
Mm,
it'll be on a DVD one of these days.
I see. So, what got you into going into special effects makeup?
Just trying to see if I could recreate what I could recreate. I really was into doing my makeup back. I was in modeling back when I was 13. So I
Mm,
went from doing, the pretty, model makeup to, all right, well,
mm,
let me see if I can draw this. Oh, I can make this look like blood. And YouTube was always a fun guide. So I
mm,
was like, all right, how can I make my own, you know, bones? And they were like, okay, use liquid latex and this, and kind of make a paper mache, and then just paint blend. Uh, so I was just kind of creating whatever I saw, whether I saw it on TV, and I was like, oh, let me see if I can recreate that, or I, was getting my anxieties out. A lot of the times, there's one in particular picture that I have where I'm just going insane on my face with a
mm,
bunch of different theatrical shapes, and I was in the middle of having an anxiety attack while I was doing it. By the time
mm,
I was done, I finally was breathing and I was calm. It looked like a mess, but I was like, wow, so I could do whatever I really am feeling and
mm.
physically do that. So whenever I got really mad at someone, an ex-boyfriend was doing something, I was like, all right, well, let me just go and do the Black Dahlia makeup, and then take a few photos here, post that. If that's not emo enough for you.
Uh, yeah, no, I find it fascinating when I see, people such as yourself when they actually do the practical effects makeup, and I say, "Wow, that's pretty good. I'm impressed." Yeah. Did your parents ever freak out with some of
Oh,
the
all
stuff
the
that
time. I should get a video for you of my mom. She tells everyone all the time when I show off, the
mm,
pictures, because she'll talk about it. She goes, there'll be times she comes right out and scares the hell out of me. I won't see her for 12 hours, and then she comes in with half of a stuffed animal glued to her face, and it looks like she just mauled something, and it scares the hell out of me because I'm just going to go to the bathroom. Disorienting
uh,
her when she wakes up, waking her up, being like, hey, mom, did the dog go out?
what's the craziest makeup effect that you've done?
Craziest makeup effect I've done, I would have to say, so there's two. one being crazy and one factor and what I did with it, and then the other
Mm.
crazy factor just from doing it. So I did inspiration from Batman's Two Face.
Uh-huh.
So I basically burnt the whole entire half of my face, or made it
Uh,
look like I was burnt, saturating off. I thought that was pretty cool because I literally structured the whole bone with tissue paper. My mom was mad to find out that the toilet paper that she just bought I was using to glue on my face, but it worked, right? It worked. It scared her. Pictures were great. I didn't mind. And then the other one was back before I met my husband, way before I met my husband, I was asked to go out on a date on Halloween.
Mhm.
So, like anyone who is sane, right? We're going to the mall. I decided to make myself look like a car crash victim.
I bet that would have.
Yeah, everyone kept on asking me if I was okay. So then I was like, "Oh wow, my Halloween makeup's really good." And I was like, "It's Halloween, right?" Like,
Now, see, a man of my morbid sense of humor would have loved that. we,
exactly. Look, I always have this thing. If you cannot fall asleep to a Jeffrey Dahmer documentary with me,
hmm
you're not the one for me.
hmm
Thank God I met my husband when I did. He trooper. What a trooper.
ah. That's just like with my wife. When our first date, I took her to go see a horror movie. Now, keep in mind, she's not into horror. I took her to go see Tales from the Crypt, Demon Night. Oh man. Not probably not the best at first impressions, but she still had a good time, and I guess it must have worked because obviously over almost 30 years later we're still happily married.
Absolutely. Hey, sometimes you just gotta shock them into it.
hmm
They'll like it one way or another. That's actually how I ended up becoming a huge fan of Rocky Horror Picture Show. I
uh,
never once, like I said, I'm a boxed in kid, and I met friends in high school, and at our local theater, they have the screenings and stuff, and everyone
oh
dresses
yeah.
up. So my group of friends, they all dressed up, and they all freaked out that I've never once seen this. So instead of prepping me beforehand, they're like, no, 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 we're gonna dress you up. Just come to our house.
hmm
Okay, so I thought, okay, all of us are gonna be dressed up, no problem. They dressed me up as Eddie, by the way. And then I get pulled up onto stage, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Everyone is, singing and dancing, and my friend's like, just
hmm
go with it, improv.
hmm
Okay, I'm gonna do that. So I'm just lip singing and like trying my best.
hmm
And I end up getting complimented in a little reward at the end of the night with her being the
Ooh.
couple. Now I love Rocky Horror Picture Show, but like for the first time ever going, I mean, I performed well.
Uh, I mean, because Rocky Horror came out because I'm a '70s kid, so I grew up during the '70s. So obviously that was a huge point I'm like, what? Why am I seeing all this Rocky Horror Picture stuff? I had no clue what the hell it was until as I got older and realized what it was. I said, let me check this out just to see what the craze is all about, and I actually enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed it. A
Absolutely.
little different kind of
It's
horror
very
film, but
campy. It's campy horror,
oh yeah, it's definitely
and
campy. Yeah.
I absolutely love it. I love
Mm,
the campiness to it because like I said, you have different tastes. And it's
mm.
like, all right, well, I already watched my gore horror and I watched my slashers. Let me just throw on something a little lighthearted. Rocky Horror Picture Show or Repo.
Yeah, I could just imagine, uh, some of the people looking at some of the stuff that you do and probably look like this girl's crazy. Why is she doing all this stuff?
This is just my personality. This is how I am. If I could have had you met my father, you would understand exactly why. You're like, "Oh, you're just a louder, more creative version of him." God bless you.
Uh, I'm the total opposite of my mother. If you saw my when if you ever saw or met my mother, she was a very nice, lovely woman, and raised me and my brother correct, but total opposites. It's like this. There's simply no way because when The Exorcist first came out, and of course I wanted to see it. She told me, "No, money. It's too scary. It's not good enough for you. You're not gonna like it." I said, "Okay." So me and my boys we snuck and so go see it. Saw it.
I was thankful. So me and my mom are somewhat opposites. I'm like a really
Mm.
good blend of both parents. My dad though was the only one that would go and watch movies, go and take me to the movies, or sit down and watch whatever I wanted to watch with him. My mom not so much. She's like, your dad will take you. Your dad will take you. So my dad would take me to see anything. We've seen My Bloody Valentine together, and he was like, "Are you sure you want to see this?" And I was like, "Uh huh." And he's like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Dad, it's probably nothing I've already seen on what you showed me for the documentaries. Is it right?" And he's like, "All
Uh,
right, valid point." Until that's when he stopped with cartoons, because he was unaware that 8 Crazy Night, or was it 12 Crazy Nights from with Adam Sandler.
oh yeah, that one.
He took me, and I was only like fourth grade, to see that, and the way people were staring at him in the theater back then. And I'm laughing so hard as if I know every joke, if I understand it.
uh,
My dad's like, "All right, no more, no more."
don't think that's the right movie to take take a fourth grader to go see. That's just as bad as for some reason my mother took my brother and I to go see Shaft in Africa,
Oh,
and there was nudity in that particular scene, and it's like why am I seeing these two naked people do stuff? I don't know what's going on.
oh no. We did get my mom once to go to one movie, and it was to see Paranormal Activity, the very first one.
Uh-huh. Uh-oh.
My mom does not like horror films. She had the popcorn, and it was the typical, ah, and just throws it up. She, poor her, had to take me and my few friends. We were under the age, of course, to go and watch it.
Hmm.
So we're all sitting there. My mom's all the way at the end, and we're getting rained in on popcorn.
Hmm.
She's like, "I need to get out of here."
No, I can't
So
take it no more.
she's like, "I'm gonna go wait outside. You guys enjoy this." And it was only like 10 minutes in.
Yeah, man. Okay, for the final question. Oh, almost not the final question. Who is your favorite final girl and why?
I would have to say, I think her name's Lori. From Michael Myers.
Oh, but Laurie Strode.
Yes.
Hmm.
Sorry, not great with names. Great with understanding which character is which and being like, "I like that one."
Mm,
Goes out the door with names. But Lori, I really like Lori because in in later adaptations, she ends up being more fearless of
hmm.
Michael Myers, and in a sense, giving him less power. Hence, why we have so many adaptations.
Unfortunately.
Like I said, my husband hates him. He will basically beat me up if I say I like anything more than the first two. I'll be kicked out of the house. He's a
Oh,
huge Michael Myers fan, so out of
oh.
the last 10 years I've kind of just molded that. If it's not Chucky, then all right, it's Michael Myers. We'll go with it.
What was his reaction to Halloween ends?
Trash. He's like, "That's not allowed in the house. Not allowed in the house." He's like, "Set it on fire." It no. He doesn't acknowledge them at all. He's like, "No, anything past the first two, don't acknowledge." I'm like, "What about this? What about this?"
Yeah.
It gets funny in the household, let me tell you.
I can imagine so.
If I
Especially,
so happen to find a Michael Myers gift and it's of the wrong mask, he will let
mhm.
me know. He will tell me in great detail.
Oh yeah, if he knows the difference between the masks, he's definitely a Michael Myers fan.
I will have to get you guys connected at one point. He has a whole sleeve tattoo, and then he has the same emblem that Michael Myers has for the
Hmm.
curse.
Hmm.
Didn't know anything about that till I met him.
Okay, now the final question is: if you could create or write a horror film, what type of horror film would it be, and what type and what subgenre?
So I would definitely create a suspense psychological horror, very
Hmm.
much similar to probably like American Psycho, but
Hmm.
instead of making it the rich guy, who's type A, I would necessarily kind of adapt it to more of a middle class working everyday person losing their brain, and at that
Hmm.
point is the only option to keep themselves sane.
Hmm.
I think would be pretty interesting because it once again it's relatable. It's like, oh my gosh, and it kind of puts the viewers in a headspace of could that be the guy next to me? You know, situation.
Okay, it's almost similar to like the Michael Douglas film called Falling Down.
Yep.
Hmm. Okay. Well, I want to thank you, Paige, for coming on. You were very good guest to come on, and really did enjoy you. And again, if you are interested in seeing Paige on her YouTube channel or check out her website, they'll be in the description box below. I want to thank Paige for coming on again, and hope we will see each other again when we have another chit chat on Marshy's channel. That was fun.
Absolutely. Bye guys. Take care.
Okay, and once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as a horror miser, Monty G, and always remember horror rules. Good night, everyone, and please stay safe. Please stay safe out there.